as they talk about writing.
Can't get it right, Rich. I try every week to get it right, and I can't
to
get
the
it
New
right.
Author Podcast, a weekly podcast diary starring Jerry Evanoff and Rich Kacy. Join them weekly as they talk about writing, publishing, and marketing their books. And now, here are your hosts.
It's
Hello,
a
everyone. Welcome to
miracle of technology.
It really is. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the New Author Podcast. I am one of the hosts of this podcast, Jerry Evanoff. I got to say the date now because I'm getting all flustered here. It's May 5th. It's Monday, May 5th. It's 2025. This is episode number 309. Said my name already, so I'll just say Rich's name next. Rich Kacy, how are you?
I'm doing well, but as I warned you, I'm going to warn the listeners too that I just ate a fresh cucumber out of my garden, and they always make me burp. So if you hear an unintended burp, that was just me.
We'll hope that the Riverside FM AI machine edits it out.
Right.
When we say noise suppression.
I have noticed, it does a really good job of balancing the audio, but I also noticed it also balances the lighting.
Oh.
Yeah, because we sometimes I'm very dark. It all depends on what time of day we're recording and stuff. And but they've been both of our pictures are just about the same amount of brightness.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And I don't really use the AI tools. You just do like the noise suppressor and then the video stuff and just export it, and it just exports into whatever. I don't really get into the AI stuff. I don't want to take the time to do it.
Right.
So, yeah. All right. I'm just going to throw this out there right now, Rich. The phrase is generally, I will not stand for that. Well, today I'm going to stand for that. So hopefully I don't sway because I tend to do that. My mom always yells at me for not being able to sit still. So if it's too annoying for the YouTube viewer, just comment. I'm always happy to sit down. So, but I'm going to try to stand this time as we get through this. So let's see. I'm going to jump into my stats from last week. Very interesting week for me on a whole bunch of levels that I'm kind of excited to talk about with you. And because it's the beginning of the month, I'm going to go through a bit of a summary of where I'm at right now. Back in May of 2023, I published my first murder mystery. That was book number 4 that I published. I published my first murder mystery in a series in May of 2023. And I started to write book 2 and kind of realized I don't want to write book 2 and publish it and then write book 3 and publish it. I want to write a whole series, almost like I have a whole series planned out ahead of time. So the plan was to write books 2 through 9, first drafts, and then go back and edit book 2, and then edit book 2 and then publish it, and edit book 3, publish it, and so on. But that gave me the ability while I was in books 8 and 9 to go back and seed stuff into books 2, 3, 4, and so on as I needed to. I've also added a book 0.5, which will end up being a book funnel free giveaway to get people into the series. Don't smile. And then I added a book 7.5 that I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do with that a little later, because I did come up with something that was on my running list of future things to do. And I'm pretty excited about it. It kind of gave me a structure and something to look forward to. So I will talk about that later.
You can't believe how hard a time I have trying to explain to library patrons this concept of book 2.5 or book 0.5, because it's showing up now in all of our databases, like fantastic fiction, for example. It'll literally have in there, this is book 2.5 in the series. So
yeah, I mean, this series is going to have a 0.5, a 1.5, and a 7.5. And I'll talk about it a little later, but I'm kicking around the idea of a 4.5 also for specific reasons. So
be a groundbreaker, do a 4.75.
Oh, I like that even better. That's actually pretty smart. That's actually pretty good. I may do that. That's like a Weird Al Yankovic type thing.
Yeah.
Or the Naked Gun and then the Naked Gun 2.5.
Right.
It's pretty good. So, all right. So for this past week, my goal was to finish my novella, finish 7.5, and finish the Excel spreadsheets that I was trying to do to sum up each of the first 7 books in the series so that I could plot book 8 a little better. Before I tell you what actually happened, I'm going to talk about an episode of Seinfeld with you. There's an early episode of Seinfeld where it's the first one we meet Jerry's parents. It's actually a different father that ends up being the father through the rest of the series. And at one point, Kramer comes in and he says, levels. He's going to turn his apartment he's going to redecorate by using levels. I don't know what that means. But he just talks about levels. And Jerry's like, I don't think you're going to do that. And Kramer says, bet me. He says, okay, I'll bet you. So later on in the episode, Kramer comes in and says, I'm not going to do that. And Jerry's like, great, I won the bet. He's like, no, the bet's off. I'm not doing it. And Jerry's like, no, that was the bet. So my goal was to do the Excel spreadsheets. I'm not doing them anymore.
Okay.
I didn't fail at the goal. I'm just not doing it.
You just eliminated it.
It was the long-winded way to say that I'm just eliminating that as something I was doing. Exactly. So I succeeded on my goal beautifully by finishing the novella, and then the other stuff we won't talk about. So The first draft of 7.5 ended up at 31,394 words. That's about 6,200 more words than I wanted for this draft. So when I go to edit it, it's going to be very interesting to see whether I go down or up. I tend to be an underwriter, so my guess is I'm going to go up, but we'll see. Book 8, though, surprisingly, book 8 up 3,556 words to 3,556 words as I started it this week. That would be the prologue, chapter 1, 2, and then the first part, a very small part of chapter 3. For the year, I'm at 72,060, which is about 50% of the way to my 145,000 word goal that I planned for the year. And we're only 33% of the way through the year, so I'm feeling good right now. And then my words per hour, what did my words per hour go to? Because I don't think I updated that. Let's see, my words per hour are at, I love this desk setup right now. It's so much better. 1,270. So it's actually up 7 words to 1,270. Which
That's good. Yeah. I had a not as productive a week. I was only up 4,810 words on the Cozy Mystery since last Monday, but I only wrote a couple of days. So that kind of makes sense. So it's down quite a bit from the previous week, but I can't really complain. The story now stands at 31,771 words. I think I'm on chapter 13 of what's plotted right now to be 24 chapters. So I'm just a little bit over halfway. Yeah. Total word count for me year to date is 98,470, or a little over 49% of my way to the goal of 200,000 words. I did not do any editing this week. As you'll see, I spent a lot of time outdoors. Interestingly, my Blue Sky followers rocketed up over 15% to 365. It was a gain of 50 for the week. Excuse me. All due to a comment I left on somebody else's post that gave a flashback to when I was in college during the Reagan assassination attempt and the raging party that my girlfriend at the time threw for that attempted assassination. And social media is weird. People just loved it.
I mean, I follow up with, I wonder what she did for like the Garfield assassination. That's very strange. McKinley, I mean, whoever the McKinley, I think it was. That is weird. So
yeah,
that is so strange.
Social media is weird, and it also took, just writing that took me back to all the weird, wild things that happened when I was that age, and someday I need to write it down.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah. All right, heading into my recap for last week. Tuesday, I was in the office. I did finish the last few sentences of chapter 16, and then I went to chapter 6 and started and finished that. Added 139 words to 16 and 1091 for chapter 16. And with that 1,230 words, book 7.5 was finished. So I actually finished it on Tuesday. In the evening, we really, really had to dodge the thunderstorms that were really severe going through here. There were tornadoes down here. The lucky part was it worked out to where I was north all day and there was very little rain. I was just north of the system. And then I drove east to go to the golf course as the system went past my house. And then by the time golf ended, I went south and I only had a bit of a rainstorm for about 10 minutes coming down 77 in Cleveland. But other than that, I kind of dodged the rain the entire way. We got our round of golf too, so it worked out well.
Nice.
On Wednesday, I did work from home. We were supposed to do an installation on Saturday, and I wasn't going to be able to golf. And we found out that we'd be postponing the installation for a couple weeks, which made me so happy. I was bragging to everybody I could think of that I finally get to golf. And then we'll learn that Mother Nature had other plans for that, because that's how she's been the last 6 months. At lunch, the canine paw spa lady came by and gave Max a bath and trimmed his nails. So there was no writing for me. I didn't go anywhere. I was waiting on her. But I did begin to organize the story. This is where I started looking at the Excel spreadsheets I wanted to make. And it's so overwhelming to say, I'm going to take 7 books that are, let's say, 40,000 to 50,000 words each on average. I have a couple that are in the 80s and a couple that are in the 30s. And I'm going to try to now go through every page and mark everything down that happened. And this isn't something I wanted to do. This is not something I wanted to do. And I think we've talked about this from the start. If you're going to do this, I think we've talked about this before. If you're going to do this, this is something you do from the beginning. You organize your novel if it's going to be something you want to keep down the road. And the problem is I like writing too much to want to pause and spend 3 weeks making a book.
Right. I mean, it's almost something you have to do at side by side while you're plotting. And then or it's actually it could function as a plot mechanism, and then you once you do write, you have maybe go back and make changes as the story evolved. But yeah, going back, it's almost like it's wasted effort, because you think, I understand the idea of having a story Bible and being able to go back and look and see, okay, what was somebody's hair color and all that, but your average reader is not going to remember that either. So
I've thought about that, because I'm going to talk later about what I'm actually going to do, and it's probably going to seem like a bad idea, but I don't necessarily want it for the reader. I'm not going to deliver it. I really just want it for me as part of this hobby that I'm currently in as a writer. Like, eventually I want to make it a business. I want to make it a job, and I want to make it something that I make money off of. But right now it's literally just a hobby. And I love the idea of just having a story Bible to go along with my stories. Something I can reference quickly, something I can just have. Maybe I can build a little wiki out of it and hide some spoilers and throw it on my website. Things like that that I would love to do with it. So it will get done. We'll talk about how later. I didn't get very far with this. Thursday I was in the office, and this is where at lunch now I'm like debating in my head, do I keep going with this? No, I want to write the opening scene. I know what the opening scene is going to be. Without even plotting, I know what the first couple scenes are going to be. So I tackled the prologue, 919 words, in about 40 minutes, and then in the evening after work, didn't do much of anything at all. That's going to be a theme that's going to change this week. Holy cow. Friday, I did take half a day. I went to Chick-fil-A in the morning after work I went to the Chick-fil-A after work in the afternoon, early afternoon, for lunch. And I did look into more about organizing. Like, this is where I'm kind of Googling, what's the best way to do this? How do I do this? I uploaded 3 Word documents to ChatGPT into that project section where you can put folders. Remember when I was talking to ChatGPT about this a couple weeks ago? It was like, yeah, just give us everything. And then, your 750,000 words across your 12 books, we can search that and get what you want. So I uploaded 2.5 words. And as I uploaded the 3rd document, I got a message that said the following: files impacting responses. Responses may be lower quality due to the number of files this project is using. Okay, that's 3. I was 2.5 books in, and one of the books is a novella. The other one was only half of the book. Like, we weren't very far into this thing, and it was already telling that. I mean, I did ask a couple of questions, terrible answers. So I pretty much came to the realization that there's no real easy way to do this story Bible thing I want to do. AI isn't good enough to look through the number of words that I want to look through and give me accurate answers. I could do it chapter by chapter, but it's so tedious. I just don't want to do that. So what I'm planning on doing right now is plotting and writing books 8 and 9, just like normal. I'm going to start, I've already started. And then when I go back to edit book 2, well, at this point, when I go back to edit book 2, that's when I was going to start my story Bible. That has completely changed since Friday morning. So let's see. So I really didn't do much of Chick-fil-A. I was there for a couple hours and literally got no words, got nothing else, got nothing done, which is fine. Headed home, didn't do much throughout the evening, played some of my football game, and then I hung out until it's time for bed, which was early, Rich, because I was getting up to golf at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I woke up at 5 a.m. and it was pouring rain. There was no way we were going to get off. So this is today is day 8 out of the last 9 that we've gotten rain. The only day we can get rain in the last 9 days was Wednesday. It's just been horrible. So, but luckily, I think it ends tomorrow's the last day for a while. So.
Is it better than snow?
Oh, 100%.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. So I got up at 5 a.m. and couldn't golf, and I wasn't going back to bed. So I decided that I was going to play my football game at 7:30 in the morning, which is not something I generally would do, but I was up for a couple hours. I was awake. I'd already showered. I was ready. Wasn't ready to leave yet because I don't like to take my dog over to mom and dad's until about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I ended up playing the game, finishing the game that I had started because I really wanted to get on to the next one. I also wanted to plot some of book 8 and record it for Patreon. So I needed to have a clean desk, which means get rid of all the cards from the game I was playing. So then I went into, wow, I don't remember this. Oh, yes. So I'm going to talk about that. Oh, I thought that was Sunday. Okay, that was today. All right, we're going to skip that. We'll get to that when I get to my things to talk about stuff later. Is that right? Is that really right? Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about, I thought that was Sunday morning. It was actually Saturday morning. So we'll talk about that a little later. Went to Chick-fil-A, and this is where I wrote chapter 1 in book 8. And at this point, I was pretty sure I knew how chapter 2 would go. but maybe not all of it. And I didn't think I could go any further until I plotted. So I did about 1,000 words in 45 minutes. That's a pretty good pace for me. And then once I got home, again, I played my football game a little bit more. I took a break for dinner. And then I sat down for about 90 minutes and I recorded a video on plotting book 8 for Patreon. So if you want to check it out, go over patreon.com/newauthorpodcast. Links in the show notes. And you can sign up and check it out. It's about an hour and 20 minutes long. And it's really just me getting the key points of the story. I don't get into the chapter by chapter stuff yet. It's really getting the pinch points, the midpoint. The midpoint is a stunner. I really hadn't decided on whether I wanted to kill off the mentor, but not only am I going to kill off the mentor, but I'm going to do it in a very shocking way that just out of nowhere, no one sees it coming, boom, dead. And I think it is, if I write it right, which is the hard part, then I think it could be a pretty good scene, but I've decided to go ahead and do that. So see all about that. Again, patreon.com/newauthorpodcast if you want to check it out. And that took me into the evening. And the good thing is I got to bed a little bit early because I was going to golf on Sunday, except I woke up and it was raining and there was no golf. This is just horrible. So I went to Panera and worked on chapter 2. And I was, after plotting the previous night, I knew what I was doing with chapter 2. And I kind of knew where chapter 3 was going, although I didn't have a chance to finish it. Ended up adding 1,635 words in about 75 minutes, which again, good pace for me. So I went to the grocery store. I got home around 1:30, 2 o'clock. I sat down on the couch, and then other than getting up to go get my dog, maybe around 4:30, I never left the couch. I did not do anything the rest of the day, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like the perfect day.
Oh, it's wonderful. The only thing I didn't do was nap. So I kind of watched sports. I watched golf. I watched basketball. I watched baseball. Just sat there. It was just a couch potato for the whole day. It was great. I recommend people doing that a lot.
Speaking of baseball, I'm getting totally creeped out by the Tigers. So
they continue to stay in first place.
That's right.
Yeah. They're good. So who knows? But Monday, the plan was to go to work Monday into the office like I usually do Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. But I woke up around 3 a.m. and I was like wide awake for some reason. That's about 5 hours of sleep. I laid there for like 45 minutes and just said, nah, screw it. The weather sucks. I don't really want to drive in rain again. It's been a week of driving in rain, and it's going to get nicer as the week goes on. So I reset my alarm for 6:30. I just got up and worked from home all day. And the stuff that I did at lunch, I will talk about when I get to the end of this podcast because it's interesting. It's got to do with my story Bible, and it's quite interesting. So that was my day, and I kind of got some dinner, worked on a few things this evening that have nothing to do with writing, and then that was it. Now we're just podcasting.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the end of the podcast then because I saw what was in the notes. So
I kept it out of the notes. Well, I kept the main pieces out of the notes.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw the hint that was in there.
Oh, did you? Okay, I didn't saw the hint. Okay.
So for me, last Tuesday, I had a very pleasant morning working in the garden. Weather was beautiful. Just done mundane things like tying up tomatoes and putting in bags over the fruit and doing some watering. And too soon it came time to go to the library. And when I got there, it was kind of like walking into a tornado. There were so many people there. And partly it's because Southern Louisiana State University, as well as a local nursing college, they all are having in the midst of their finals right now. So there were students everywhere clamoring for space, wanting to get textbooks that they should have gotten a long time ago. Do last minute cramming. And we don't carry textbooks because they change so often. So a lot of disappointed people. Anyways, by dinner time, I was really knackered. So I took a little nap in my truck instead of actually going out to get something to eat. And then once I got back inside on Tuesday because it's my late night, things had calmed down a little bit. And in fact, as the evening wore on, it got just dead quiet. And I was able to knock out by 9 p.m. 2,357 words on that cozy mystery. So that was one day I got to write on Tuesday. Wednesday, I was back to work at 9 and on the public desk, handling patron requests. I did get into a minor tiff with my coworker, the 82-year-old woman who she's an ex-school teacher. She taught at a Catholic school, and she thinks rules are ironclad and should never be broken. And I come from a background or just a disposition that rules are there to be broken, to find ways to get around. Especially if you can address people's problems and make them happy by not following the rule. So anyways, yeah, we got into it a little bit, and it just really soured my mood for the day. So to try to relieve the stress, I went to the gym at lunch, and I lifted really heavy, especially on deadlifts, where I set actually a personal record, which was, good for me, 320 pounds deadlifting.
Wow. Nice. All at the same time, or was it like 20-pound increments?
No. All at the same time.
Because I would have done 20-pound increment. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Congrats. Nice.
Unfortunately, it didn't help my mood at all. I went back to work. I was still sullen. And I spent most of the time, the rest of the day, with my headphones on as much as I possibly could. I just kind of stuck in the back. I didn't volunteer to go on the public desk. Nobody actually asked me to do that, so I wasn't going to go if they didn't get asked. I did my required training videos for the second quarter. Earlier I had done the ones on technology, basically email phishing stuff, but these were more kind of interpersonal, dealing with homeless, dealing with people who are having, psychotic events and stuff like that. But anyways, that's all out of the way. But I didn't do anything writing at all on Wednesday. Once I got home, I went back out into the garden, and that did make me feel better after about an hour. And I had harvested earlier a bunch of our potatoes, last of the crop. And so I made a big stir fry that had a lot of what essentially turned out to be French fries in it. And I really love potatoes. They're comfort food, probably part of my Eastern European heritage.
Wow. I'm the same way. And I'm also Eastern European. So that's interesting.
Yeah. So it was really good. That evening, I did start reading a new book, Stormy Weather by Carl Hyacin. It's another one of those Florida man stories filled with wild characters and there's really outrageous events. People say outrageous things.
Have you read him before?
Oh yeah,
you mentioned him before.
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yep. Yeah. He has quite a few books out, and they're all kind of Florida man stories. This one was centered on the aftermath of Hurricane Andrew that ripped through Miami and Homestead, and that's just devastated area, and all the shady dealings that went on in that area at that time. Thursday, I woke up with a really, really strong desire to call in sick, but I kind of bucked it up and I made it in on time anyways. I got up like 45 minutes later, which should have put me all off in terms of schedule, but I managed to rush through my morning schedule. I thought I might be able to avoid the public desk to start the day, but someone that was scheduled to come in didn't come in until an hour late, so I was stuck on the desk until noon. That day, I did go to Chick-fil-A for lunch and decided that as I was sitting there eating Chick-fil-A and watching the crazy Louisiana people around me, that I'm going to make this cozy mystery as about as crazy as Carl Hyacin's books and just see how it turns out. Now, I realize there are some people that out there that do write these cozy mysteries that are like that. Jana De Leon is one person who writes a whole series of cozy mysteries set in Louisiana that are like that. But I'm going to see what I can do and basically what it involves is just really magnifying the odd characteristics of people and, giving them kooky names. Like, one of the ones, my characters in the book, I'm going to name Daisy Strong. She's a local bodybuilder enthusiast turned murder suspect. So nice. Just do something like that and give them crazy things to say. So that was rather fun. And so in the afternoon, I kind of got started on that. I didn't go back and edit anything I've already done. I just continued from where I was at and tried to make it a little bit more goofy. Ended up with 2,453 words on that day. Friday through Sunday, I had off. So it was, since we're right in the thick of gardening season, I just spent all day out in the garden with Tammy. Except for Saturday morning, I did help a coworker move a dresser that she was gifted. And then I spent about 2 hours at the local nursery buying flowers for all our hanging baskets. And that was kind of fun. And then on Sunday, I did something really unexpected. After church, I came home and I joined a weight loss program because I kind of hit the floor. I could not get myself down below 220. So I decided I'm going to join this program called Noom, Noom. It's basically an interactive, motivational record-keeping app-related program. And I've known a number of people that really swear by it. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to drop my Future Fiction Academy membership for the summer, which is roughly about $170 a month, and instead funnel 1 month of that money into the Noom program. So for $170 in Noom, you get 5 months in the program. So I'm going to give it a 5-month trial and see if I can actually drive myself down below, well, hopefully down below 200, but we'll see what happens. I started it today, and it's a lot of record keeping, which I'm not exactly the best at. So we'll see. But one thing I do like is instead of keeping track of calories per se, you've got kind of, I guess this is kind of like Weight Watchers in a way, although I don't know anything about Weight Watchers to speak of. But they flag all the different foods as a different color. So you've got your green foods, your yellow foods, and your orange foods. And you go to have half of all your foods being green foods and then the other half being orange and yellow, with hopefully most of them being yellow. So we'll see what happens.
Is I assume that like the McDonald's breakfast I get, that's green.
Yeah,
and I got Taco Bell because it's Cinco de Mayo. That's green, I would assume.
Right? I have to admit that about mid-afternoon, I did look up and see whether the Chick-fil-A chocolate shake was on that list or not of green foods. Unbelievably, it's not. It's hard to. Hard to believe.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so that's something I did on Sunday, and then other than that, I didn't do much of anything else other than being in the garden. Monday, today was a busy day at the library. There was only 2 people to cover the desk in the morning, one of which being me, so I was unable to write at all. And the afternoon really wasn't much better, although I did manage to spend some time reorganizing computer files on my laptop, which seems to be kind of an unending process. Just as soon as I get something into a semblance of order, I then spend months not even paying attention to it, and just it all falls apart again. So I just don't have the discipline for a good file system, but I've got to do something about it, because there are things that I've written that I just can't find, and I know they're there, but I just don't know. I got so many thousands of files floating around. I just got to do something. So anyways, that was my week. Not a whole lot in the way of writing. A ton of stuff done in the garden, which was nice. Had our pastor come over on Friday to take a look at the garden because he's a big garden enthusiast. So yeah, it's just kind of that time of year. It's still not terrible outside. It's probably most days it's in the mid 80s. As soon as it jumps up, in fact, the next week, you're talking about the bad weather you have. We're supposed to have 4 or 5 days straight of rain. And temperatures down around mid 70s or something.
You can have it all.
Yeah.
Just take it all.
Well, it'll be nice because that'll probably be the last we see. Because as soon as this front moves through, we'll probably jump up into the mid 90s, and it'll be like that for until next fall sometime.
It's rough golfing weather, but I'd still do it.
Yeah. In terms of running a list of future things to do, I did add a couple of the 2 things that I've just mentioned: cleaning up and organizing my computer files, which really needs to get done, and my nooming, or my new diet program. We'll see what happens with that as we go through time.
You're nooming. Your what's the other one called? What's the social media site there? Blue Sky.
Blue Skying, yeah.
You're what is it?
Blue
instead
Sky?
of tweeting. No, instead of tweeting.
Skeeting.
So you're nooming. You're skeeting.
Skeeting. Yeah.
You're like a kid. You got all the hip lingo.
I'm with the cool kids now.
Yeah, you are. Jeez. All right, for my running list of future things to do, I have the same 3 things on there, but I did add a couple things at the bottom that go along with one of them. So I have Instagram style ad, that's down the road. Drawings for each book, that's down the road. But then start mapping how each book will be connected to the next and how to actually sell them. And here's what I came up with. I was in the shower a couple days ago, and you do your best thinking in the shower, because what else are you going to do? And so this is what I came up with. Right now, book 1 is out there. I think it's $3.99. When book 2 is available, drop book 1 down to 99 cents and put book 2 out there at $3.99, and then put 3 out there at $3.99, and then 4 out there at $3.99. And then as soon as 4 is out there, combine them into a bundle, 2, 3, and 4 for 99 cents in KU, and hope for a lot of page reads. Then release 5, 6, and 7 in the same way, $3.99 each. And then when 7 comes out, bundle them and make them 99 cents. Now 7 will have a free novella, book 7.5 in the back, and if you read that, then it's a nice to be continued into book 8. But if you're that far and you don't get the novella, you probably still would go for book 8. I would assume. Yeah. Go for book 8. So book 8 and 9, no bundle. I'm just selling them at $4.99, and then that's kind of what I'm looking at right now for the entire series.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with that.
Well, I mean, immediately right after that, Rich, I was just like, screw it. I'm just going to put them all wide and make them all $4.99 and not even think about it. So, I'm still not 100% sure, but I do like that plan that I came up with. So, For my addicted to, I put in here looking at maps. And I put in parentheses work and play. Now, I can't think of why I put play in there, but man, every day for the last week and a half, I've done nothing at work, I've done a lot of things at work, but I've spent a lot of time looking at maps because I'm writing a program that gets the average cost of the houses that we offer people over the last 12 months in any particular area. But there's a lot of rules to that. For example, you don't cross country borders. You can't cross state borders. But if there's nothing available in the city, you got to go out 50 miles. It's the whole thing. Right. So all I do is look at maps and pick cities to test with. And I really, really like maps. I'm a huge fan of maps. I was like boring the people that I was testing with about how Point Pleasant, what is it? I think it's Minnesota. No, that's the Northwest angle. And there's all these places that are like, what is that? Enclaves in Canada that are U.S. territories, and you have to drive through Canada to get back into the U.S. And we were talking about Angora today, which is this tiny little country between France and Spain that I didn't really know much about. Like, they're just, in their back of their heads, they've got to be going, dude, get on with the testing and shut up. Because all I'm doing is scrolling around maps, looking at maps. So that was definitely an addiction this week. And it'll continue through this whole week too.
Are you guys using like MLS data or what?
No, we have our own data based on what we've priced things at over the last 12 months. It's a rolling 12 months. Okay. Yeah, we have our own data. And you?
Yeah, for me, well, it's gardening. Gardening like there's no tomorrow. It'll probably be the same thing this coming week. Although I do work the next 7 days in a row, so how much time I'm going to spend in gardening isn't going to be a whole lot.
Yikes. All right. In terms of coming up for me this week, since I did work from home today, I'm in the office the next 3 days. And every day and every evening is busy. So tomorrow I'll finish chapter 3 at lunch. Then I have my golf league in the evening as long as the weather allows me to. Right now it's kind of 50-50. We'll see if it happens. We were able to dodge it last week. I don't know if we'll be able to dodge it this week. Although I don't think it's going to be like severe thunderstorms like it was last week. It might just be rain. And if it's 70 degrees and a little bit rainy, then we'll wait it out. It's no big deal. So we'll see. Wednesday, I have my writer's club on Thursday night. So what I'll do on Wednesday at lunch is I'll edit chapter 2 of book 7.5. The plan is to try to read the entire book 7.5 from start to finish to them each month, maybe a chapter a month, which I have never done. I've always just read random chapters here and there to get their opinions of like, is it tense? Is it, what's the atmosphere? Do you believe the characters? But now I'm going to actually read something from start to finish and see what they think. So I have to edit chapter 2 of book 7.5 in order to read that on Thursday. The goal is, like I said, so in the evening, I need to do a little plotting in the evening tomorrow, Wednesday night. I'll probably record it. It'll be like a half an hour or so just to get me through the end of Act 1 so that on Thursday at lunch, if I'm not still editing, I can start writing more of book 8 because right now I don't know where it goes after this middle of chapter 3. So Wednesday night, I'll do a little video. I'll throw it on Patreon. Again, patreon.com/podcast if you want to see it. And hopefully I can get about through Act 1, maybe a half an hour. I don't want to do a big, long video, but maybe a half an hour or so for this one. Thursday, I'll either write at lunch, I'll continue through chapter 3 of book 8, or I'll continue editing that chapter 2 of 7.5 so that I need to have that to read, obviously. So if I'm still, an hour to edit, it's a big, long chapter, so an hour to edit it on Wednesday may not be enough. It might leak into Thursday's lunch break also. And then I have Writers Club in the evening on Thursday. Friday, I'm working half a day, so I'll work till 11 a.m. Then a buddy of mine's coming down. I have a game that I love playing called Star Wars Rebellion. I may have talked about this last week, but I love playing this game. That's another addiction that I could put up there. There's a lot of Star Wars Rebellion on YouTube. These videos are like 3-4 hours long, and I'll just put them on in the evening and just sit and watch me play the game to kind of A, enjoy it, and B, refresh my memory on how to play it. I haven't played it. The last time I played Star Wars Rebellion was the Friday night before COVID shut everything down Monday. I was at a buddy's house, and we were playing it, and that's the last time I played. So that's like, March 2020, March probably 2020.
Right.
So I need to refresh the rules a little bit. So we're going to play that. If it's sunny out, which it looks like it should be, depending on what his schedule's like, maybe we golf in the early afternoon, late morning, early afternoon, and then come back and play after that. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be probably no writing on that day. It's going to be an all day thing, doing some stuff I like to do. Saturday and Sunday, I should golf in the morning both days. It looks like it's going to be dry finally. And then I'll write afterward both days. Saturday, I'll run my usual errands. Sunday, I'll get groceries and come home and play, do my housework that I like to do on Sundays. And then hopefully at some point during the week, I can play my football game. I'm going to try to sneak it in at least on the weekend because, again, it's a super busy week for me. Stuff every night, which usually doesn't happen. And then next Monday, I'll be back to work, probably in the office. I'll write at lunch. And my goal for this week is a simple one. Just get Act 1 plotted completely is what I'm hoping for. So
sounds good. So it does sound busy, though, with all the evening stuff. Yeah. This week for me, tomorrow I have the morning off. And normally I'd say be in the garden, but it's supposed to start raining sometime in the early hours of the morning. And it's supposed to be bucketing down type rain. So maybe I'll actually get some writing done tomorrow morning, which will be interesting. I can't really remember the last time I wrote from home. So that'll be an interesting experiment to see if I can still do it. Once at work, I have an appointment to teach computer basics to a woman. And from talking to her on the phone, it's like she's never even turned a computer on. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that goes. I do plan on going to the gym during my dinner hour. Now that I'm starting to pay for a program, it's time to get super serious about the weight loss. And one of the better ways to do it is to build your muscle mass. So I know that, and I just need to get at it. It is finals week at LSU. Southern actually finished this past weekend, so I expect the library to be pretty busy in the evening, at least for the next couple of days. But if it's not terribly busy, then after dinner I should be able to do at least a little bit of writing. Wednesday in the morning, I'm going to be at the library. I'm going to start collecting books for a new blind date display, the thing where you take a book and you wrap it so people can't see what the title is or what the author is. And people at our branch seem to like that kind of thing because they really snapped them up the last time I did it. I'm going to shoot for getting about at least 100 books that I can personally recommend. So it's books that I have read at some point in the past. So it's going to take some time to do that. It's going to be more in the morning for sure. To corral them all. So, but at least I'll get started on Wednesday morning. Since I worked out on Tuesday evening, cross the fingers, Wednesday at lunch, I won't actually go to the gym. I'll just take my lunch hour to write and see if I can get at least an hour and a half or so of free time and shoot for maybe 2,000 words if I can get there. After lunch, I'll either finish gathering the books for the displays, which is probably what's going to happen. Or if I can get off the desk, I may actually start wrapping some of them. I actually had the library buy me a roll of craft paper that's 3 foot wide and 900 feet long. So,
oh my,
I got a lot of paper to wrap with. Yeah, exactly.
I would suggest to you, by the way, that you put Lost Stars by Claudia Gray in there. Just put on the front, Hallmark movie in the Star Wars universe, and just see how it goes.
All right. It's fantastic. Yeah, I'll try it. Somebody will probably take it.
Yeah.
What's good is I'm not going to have to write blurbs about all these books. All I got to do is I think I'm probably going to make an indication on the cover or on the wrapping paper what genre it is, just so people have a general sense for how their date's going to turn out. Thursday, it's more or less going to be a sequel of Tuesday. I'll probably get stuck on a desk in the morning, and then if not, I'll spend some time in the back writing. Lunch will be at the gym. I do have a class on Thursday afternoon teaching Google Slides, and then my book club at 6 p.m. So it's going to be a pretty busy day. Fridays of these 7 days in a row working, the week starts to really drag, because especially since I have 3 more days to work before I actually get off. So I will for certain be on the desk all morning because that's the way we're scheduled. So if anything productive is going to get done, it'll probably be short periods in between helping patrons. With luck, the foot traffic will be way down because that's the last day of LSU's finals. And everybody else, I think, will be pretty much finished by then. We've got one nursing school, a local nursing school that has a lot of students coming in to study, but I think they're probably going to be done then too. My lunchtime I'll spend in the back room writing since I was at the gym the previous day. I'm going to shoot for 2,000 words again, if at all possible. And then I'll be back at the desk in the afternoon. And if it's slow, I'm going to be wrapping books. If it's super slow, I may just sneak in some writing if the muse moves me at all. Saturday coming up, you never know what's going to happen in the library on Saturday. I was talking about that with my boss today. She's been there in the system now for 30 some years, and she says she can't predict one day to the next, how busy it's going to be. There's just like no rhyme or reason to it. But in general, on Saturdays, I can count on having to work on the public desk in the morning. I will take lunch at the gym again. I'm going to try for a new personal deadlift record, even if it's 5 pounds, which is usually where I start. I add an additional 5 pounds and see if I can do it. In the afternoon, we usually have a part-time employee come in to help cover the desk. And so I usually get a 2-hour break at some point. So I'll definitely be writing during that 2 hours and hopefully getting another 2,000 words. And then Sunday, since it's my Sunday to work this month, I'm going to plan to spend the first 4 hours when the library is not open writing. Theoretically, we have this time set aside for us to catch up on work that you didn't finish during the week. But the way my particular job responsibilities run as a tech consultant, it's not quite the right word, but as a helping hand for people who are having tech problems, I don't ever have anything that doesn't get finished up, because once the person walks out the door, I'm done. So I'm going to be ambitious and try to set a target for that time of 4,000 words. It's kind of a big get, but I might be able to do it in the 4-hour period I have. I'll be on the public desk sometime in the afternoon, but when I'm not, I'll probably wrap up some more books. So my goal for the week, if you add up all those writing periods that I talked about, it's going to be about 10,000 words. I don't know if I did that, not this past week, but the week before. So we'll see if I can do it this week. That Sunday morning should really help if I fell behind at all during the week. I'd also like during the week to continue working on organize my files, and I may even do a little bits of gardening for the hour and a half or so when I get home while it's still light. It's basically light enough now to be outside till about 8 o'clock. So I have more than an hour to putz around, so I should be able to get something done. Although, to be honest, there's not a whole lot left to get done out there, because everything's planted and we're just kind of watching stuff grow and watching it, mature.
I got news for you, Rich. It's 8:23 already, and it's light here, so I'm not sure what you're talking about this whole 8 o'clock thing.
Well, it's 7:23 here, so.
Oh, that's right, you're an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I had to let you know who's winning the baseball game. You could probably make a bet or something.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I'm just babbling.
In terms of stuff to share, I really don't have anything other than what I've talked about already.
So I want to quick go over my little teaser that I did a couple times throughout here. So this, I swear this was Sunday morning, but I don't know why I wrote it Saturday morning. But before I left for either Panera or Chick-fil-A, whichever one I went to ChatGPT and had a bit of conversation. Right? This was me just all week trying to work out this whole story Bible thing. What do I do? What do I do? So I went to ChatGPT and I basically said a lot of the same stuff that I said at the very beginning of this podcast. I have a book series that is currently 7, 1 published, 6 first draft, 3 novellas, 1 published, 2 first drafts. I'm trying to figure out the quickest way to make a story Bible. And then I said, I would even hire someone to do it for me. I just don't have the time it takes to do it right, which is not true. I have the time. I just don't want to take the time. And I said, do you have any suggestions? We'll see what it says. And I believe I used the deep research section of ChatGPT here. And it came back and it said, to help you find the best way to create a story Bible, including possibly hiring someone, can you please clarify a couple of things? So it asked me, what format are your existing drafts? Word, Scrivener, Google, document, etc. Do you want your story Bible to be digital, printable, or both? What elements do you want included in the story Bible? For example, character profiles, timeline, world building notes, plot arc, magic system, etc. And I said, and it said, do you prefer hiring a freelance editor or virtual assistant or a specialized service company? And by the way, this was about the same time I was listening to the Draft to Digital podcast where he had, what's his name? Was it Mark Lefebvre? Who's the guy who was with Draft to Digital and then left?
Mark Lefebvre.
Yeah, so he was on there, and he has a new startup or a new company that he's a part of. I don't think it's a startup, and I don't remember the name of it. I didn't prepare for this, so I don't know the name of it or anything, but it's all about virtual assistants. So I looked that up. I checked that company out while I was listening to it, and it's more about, writing assistants. It's not what I'm looking for. Right. It said, and then number 5, what is your budget and your timeline for this project? So I answered, what format are your existing drafts? So I said a couple different places, but I would supply Word documents. Do you want the story Bible to be digital, printable, or both? I said digital, but easily searchable. And then it said, what do you want? What elements? And I said characters, locations, plots, anything that seems like clues, foreshadowing, etc. Very detailed. 4, do you prefer hiring a freelance editor? And I said no preference. And then what is your budget and timeline for this project? I said I don't have either. Obviously, I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars.
Right.
Or maybe I am. But I said, but I would pay a good amount to have it done right. The quicker, the better, which is about. So then it said, okay, thanks. I'll look into the best ways to create a detailed, searchable digital story Bible for your 10-book series, including hiring options. I'll focus on tools, services, professionals who can work from Word documents and capture in-depth narrative elements like characters, locations, plot arcs, and foreshadowing. It said I'll also explore turnaround time, cost ranges, and how you can evaluate quality. I'll let you know as soon as I have the best options ready. And then I went and did something else because it took 7 minutes for this. 7 minutes, according to ChatGPT, 7 minutes, 25 sources, 111 searches is what it did for me out on the internet. So then it returned a gigantic thing. And it suggested software, Campfire, something called World Anvil, which is a powerful online wiki-style world-building platform. Scrivener, obviously that. And then OneNote or Notion. And then finally Plotter. So it's suggesting these things that it's searching. Pseudo-Write is another one that it suggested. And then it says each tool has a strength of whatever. I'll skip that one for now. And I'll go down to, okay, so I can't skip this. So the next thing it gave me was professional services and freelancers for story Bible creation. And it gave me people. And it actually gave me their websites. So the first one is Edits by Tony, Custom Story Bibles. It gave me a link, told me all about her website. Like, imagine if somebody's searching for something, it just gives your website, ChatGPT. That's amazing.
Right.
Like, that's amazing free marketing that you probably didn't expect.
Right.
But basically, it scraped her website and said, here's what she does. She'll provide it in all these different ways. Here's what it costs. All this stuff. Then it gave me Adriel Wiggins, which I think I've heard that name before. And her books, it's $200 a book for hers. Sarah, it just says Sarah Thimble Editorial. And it mentions Reedsy, a company called Books Bold Publishing, which is $900 for 4 books. And you're going to think that's a deal in a minute. And then it gave me freelance marketplaces like Reedsy, Upwork, Fiverr. I went to Reedsy and looked around, couldn't find much there. And then it gave me pricing and timeline estimates for each of those things. So we'll talk about Edits by Tony because that's the one that I like. That one was $400 for the first book. Now, if you recall, that's what I paid my niece. She did a pretty good job. I just don't think she knows the genre and the way that the stories are written to give me all the details I wanted. And it's possible that this person doesn't either. Maybe I'll get the same thing. I'm not sure. So $400 for me for one book isn't terrible. I can manage it. It's no big deal. And then you get a discount though for more books. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot. And we're talking like $2,500 to $3,000 I could potentially spend on this if I want to.
Right.
Kind of want to. It would be over time. It wouldn't be all at once.
Right.
And then there's the other ones here. But then I emailed her. I emailed her yesterday. She's in Japan. And I emailed her and I basically said a whole bunch of stuff. All the same stuff I've said already. Beginning of the podcast when I talked about where I was in the series. And then I said to her, in plotting book 8, I realized I really should have done a better job of creating some kind of story Bible as I was going. And then in parentheses, I put, by doing a better job, I mean actually doing one in the first place. I didn't. I said, anyway, I found your site through a ChatGPT search. I was wondering if you could do mine one book at a time over some period of time. I said, I don't know the details, but based on your website, it looks like what you offer is what I'm looking for, although I do have some questions. And my biggest question is, would it be a problem if any book other than book 1 is a first draft? Because I would like to send her book 2 in a couple of months after book 1, if I'm not in book 2 yet. Because and book, like, for example, the final chapter of book 2 isn't written. Like, I know what it's going to be, but I haven't written it yet. It's the like a denouement where he calls out who did it. I don't think she needs that for a story Bible. Or it's something that I can edit myself later on. And then I said, I said, the reason I want this is because if I go past book 9, if it's successful or if I'm enjoying it, again, this is a hobby for me right now. It doesn't have to be successful for me to keep going. If I'm just enjoying writing, I'm just going to keep writing. Who cares? And then I said, maybe it's something that you can send to me and I can edit it on my own as I move forward or if I make changes. And then I wrote, I'm not exactly sure how this works, but I figured I would reach out with a super long message that you may or may not have gotten to the end of. So she responded. I got it this morning and she responded. She said, thanks for reaching out. And yes, I make story Bibles for authors, so you don't have to DIY it. You mentioned you had to look around my website, so you've seen the service page, blah, blah, blah. Then she said, typically for a story Bible, I recommend the manuscripts be past the point of major changes, like renaming locations, rearranging plot points, adjusting character arcs. She said, that's just because it's the most efficient time-wise and money-wise, which, yeah, makes sense. She said, but if you're willing to keep up with updates yourself, if anything changes in the process, then I have no problem working with first drafts. She said, I make story Bibles in basically any PC-friendly software. I believe she means Windows-friendly in that case. So if you pick one you're comfortable with using yourself, then it shouldn't be too difficult. She said, did you have any other questions? Well, I had more questions, and I don't have them here in front of me. My biggest question was, number one, I said, I think I'd rather have it as a Scrivener file that I can just import it in, which I think is the best way to do it for me. Even though I'm kind of using Novel Crafter right now, I think I'd rather I like Scrivener. That's the one thing about Novel Crafter. It desperately needs the ability. Novel Crafter. Up in the upper left-hand corner, you have codecs, chats, and snippets.
Mm-hmm.
You need a fourth one there that's like table of contents that you can click, and then down the left side, you just get chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, because it's really a pain to move between chapters.
Yeah.
So that's why I told her a Scrivener file. And then the other question I had for her was, do you pick out points that are considered clues, foreshadowing, maybe things that are seeded things? And I said, I realize you don't know the series, you've never read it, you don't know the characters that well. So seeing something in I said, for example, in book 3, there's a scene where my character sits down to lunch with a couple of his buddies. And while he's sitting there, he notices a newspaper article about a woman who was killed. And he says, oh, I think I talked to her a couple days ago. And then it's put, that's it. That's the only mention of it. And that does come into play in book 7.5. So my question is, does she see something like that and put it down somewhere for me? According to her website, she gives, where's that? She gives, that's not, here it is, Custom Story Bibles. She gives narrative style. This is what your story Bible will contain. Narrative style, tense, point of view, story structure, number formatting, characters, physical appearance, relationships, held items, which is interesting, and backstory, etc. Settings, place names, populations, distances, climate, etc. Vocabulary, so made-up jargon, spelling choices, etc. Timeline, dates and times, historical records, major events, etc. And finally, chapter summaries, a brief breakdown of what happened in each chapter so you can easily find what you're looking for without having to reread the whole book. She said, basically, if you wrote it, I'll put it in the story Bible. So I'm really interested, and I expect to wake up tomorrow morning with an answer because her office hours are basically 12 hours different from mine. And I think if and she said, she said even better, it's color coded. Well, I love color coded. So if she answers my questions in the morning the way that I like it, I think I'm going to go ahead and do this for at least book 1. I'm going to ask her if she can do a sample first. But if not, I think I'm just going to do book 1 and see how it comes back. And if I like it, then at some point now she's not available. She's like an editor. She's not available till the end of June.
Right.
So you sign up now, you don't get it back until July. So, but if I like it, I'll probably continue on through and see if I can get something created complete. So I'm pretty excited about it, even though it could end up costing me more money than I wanted to. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with doing that. So,
every time I sit down and I try to think of how would somebody go about doing this, I just can't imagine how they do it. Yeah, they've got to be really, really. I don't know if they would have like a huge blotter-sized piece of paper in front of them with all these categories lined up where they can just jot down notes as they're reading, or if they're just very clever with their GPT prompts and they can run it through
whatever
an AI. Yeah, it's just hard for me to fathom how it gets done.
In my mind, you have to be reading the story and understanding the story at the same time that you're pausing on every word to make sure it shouldn't go into the story Bible. Maybe I'm making it too complicated, but that seems so. I couldn't do it. Right.
Neither could I.
So that's where we're going to go with this, and we're going to see what happens.
That'll be interesting. Interesting experiment.
And I'll definitely share it. I'll share some piece of it once I get it here on the podcast so people can see it. And we'll talk about it. And then I'll decide whether I'm going to keep going with it, which, I think there's a chance I will. If it's everything she says and she answers my questions from earlier today, then I think it'll probably be what I'm looking for. Yeah. All right. Cool. And that is it. Do you have anything else?
Yeah. I want to compliment you. You did an amazing job of standing still.
Oh, thank you. I don't think I did, but okay. I appreciate that. Yeah. Every now and then I feel like I'm too far back and then I'm too far forward, but.
You do that while you're sitting too. So.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know. Blame my mom for that. Okay. All right. So that is going to be it for the podcast today. If you have any questions or comments and you want to get a hold of me, Jerry@jerryevanoff.com. JerryEvanoff.com is the website, and all these links are in the show notes. We're on YouTube if you want to watch us, if you want to see me in my amazing Buffalo Bills t-shirt, and Rich in his collared shirt looking professional compared to me. I walked into the house last Thursday after work, and I was wearing a Star Wars t-shirt and a pair of cargo shorts and tennis shoes. And I walked in, and my mom just said, "Is that what you wore to work?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Wow, okay." So anyway, we're on YouTube. You can search us out on your favorite podcast apps. And again, like I said, go to patreon.com/newauthorpodcast. You can sign up for one of the payment plans and check out the plotting I did. Comment on it. I really want to know your opinion. Should I be doing it a different way? Do you have any suggestions on prompts? Let me know. Really, really interested in getting this right. I really enjoy plotting with ChatGPT, having that conversation back and forth. So yeah.
Yeah, if you want to shoot me an email, my address is rich@richkacy.com. And you can find me on Blue Sky at Kacy himself, especially if you search for my comments on other people's posts, which is where I tend to hang out.
If you're interested in that Reagan assassination attempt,
that's right.
You know where to go. Yeah.
That's right.
All right, well, that's going to be it for this week. Thank you for watching or listening, and we will talk to you all in a week.
Have a great week.